All right. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get started then, and maybe someone will pop in, maybe they won't, but oh well. So like before, we'll just continue along with a small little plan here. We'll try and finish up from the bullets. So like I mentioned last time, we'll try and be like a little projectile sort of thing instead of a raycast. Then we'll work on a basic enemy AI, which that really depends on how much time it'll really take. And then if time also does permit, we'll add like simple little health pickups just to show that sort of thing can work. And yeah, we should probably do the QR codes. I guess a few of us here.
The leadership.
Let's get that done real quick, and then I'll go ahead and get Godot open. Actually, I can just go ahead and do that at the same time. All right. And I'm going to assume audio's working fine. So let's go ahead and get that open. This one. All right. So where we left off before is that we just got the player, at least as far as movement, done, and we just start on the bullet. And I believe we have a start to the bullet script. Yeah, we have, at least so we have it moving. But we probably want to go ahead and get it so the player can actually shoot their bullet. So we'll switch back over to the player, get that script open. So now we can start adding in some code to actually get the player shooting. Let me just go find where I had that. Here we are. And from before, we should have the input already put in for how to do shooting. So I'm just going to go ahead and reference that. So if input dot is action pressed, I'm going to do shoot. And I'm just going to go ahead and just do a nestled if statement. You could also just do an and if you want to. So if fire ready equals 1. All right. We're going to ignore particles for now. We don't need that. Next, fire. New bull. Cool. Bullet. Substantiate. All right. And lastly, all right. So I'm going to add a little bit more to this, but basically what this is going to be doing right now is that prep next fire function, which we're going to make after we finish this little snippet. And that's going to be for changing around fire ready to act as sort of like a reload sort of thing. And I just instantiated the bullet object, which now that I realize it, we need to go ahead and make sure our player actually knows what that is. So I'm just going to scroll back up real quick. And back where we had all the stuff we declared at first, we're going to do on ready var bullet object preload, and then we're going to grab that bullet scene. So that'll make sure we have that scene saved as a variable you can reference whenever we need it. You got it? Yeah. It should also give you like a chance to unfill it. All right. You got it? Okay, I'm going to move back down there. So that gets rid of at least the error around that part. And now we're going to give that new bullet that we're making a few little changes to it. So first, we're going to change its position. And we're going to set that to be, let's see. We're going to try and set it on the player. So we're just going to do position. And then new bull Wait, not position. We're going to do rotation equal rotation. That's basically just to transfer over the player's position rotation over to the bullet. Do you want me to? I suppose we'll go that in.
Where are you?
Jesus.
He is.
That was the worst hoodie I have seen today.
Good.
I'm gonna add in the team variable for this. This is just so the bullet knows what team it is. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get that scanned a bit later, and we can finally get the re-registration done.
Cool.
So because this is the player, I believe we'll just set the team to just player. So we'll do that in quotations. You could also use numbers if you want. I'm just doing player, just so I always know easily what I'm messing with. And new bowl, damage. And we're just going to give it whatever damage the player is doing right now. And then finally, to actually add this to the world, you get parent dot add child or add new bowl. So this whole thing right here, that's going to be adding like our whole new bullet to the world. So that just gives it the position of the player, the rotation of the player, tells it what team it's coming from, so it'll know what team to actually be hurting, and also what damage it'll be doing. And that's a similar way you can really make any sort of objects in Godot via code. So as long as you have the scene already made, you can instantiate them like that. Now we're going to go ahead and handle this little error up here. So do you need a minute or two, Christian?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like move my phone because that's lighting is just difficulty over there.
Mm-hmm. I also check on Discord to make sure no one's mentioning any issues with the stream.
I'm good now.
All right. So I'll continue. So we're going to make a new function. So func prep fire. Actually, the next fire. So what that will do is it'll change our fire ready variable. We're using the track if the player can fire. We're going to first set that to 0. And then we're going to make it wait however long we want for the fire rate. So get tree dot create timer fire rate dot timeout. So that means whatever's after that in the function, it's just going to wait for I believe it's in seconds of whatever that fire rate is. So since our fire rate is, I can't remember what it was, like, I don't know, 0.5 or something, and wait like half a second. And then when that's done, we're going to set fire ready to 1, and that'll let us shoot again. So that's just a very basic way of making it like wait for you to finish shooting, so you can't just spam a bunch of bullets all at once.
Would be very fun though.
Yeah. Well, you could.
Minecraft it.
Well, you could set your fire rate to 0 if you want to see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. And I'm just going to leave that like that, since that at least lets us spawn in our bullets and all that. In fact, I believe we can already go ahead and check. Do you have that code in?
Oh, dude, it does seem to be recommending fire rate though.
Let's see. Do you have it up here?
I didn't capitalize it then.
Lawyer?
No, it's saying like the get true function is found in base self.
Oh, get tree.
Get true.
Oh, yeah. I believe it should say get tree down there. Yeah, it says get tree.
It's bad, but
All right. So no more errors now?
yeah, we're good.
All right, so let's go ahead and test this. I'm going to go back to the sample map, and let's run that. So what should hopefully happen is, like before, we can move around, rotate. Oop. And because of that little collider on our bullet, it kind of brings us with it. So that's because we have it going on top of our player. And of course, right now the bullets don't really despawn yet, so we'll have to handle that. But at least that's just a little start for this. So we're going to go back to our player. And what we need to do is make it so the bullet will spawn just a little bit in front of it. So we have a few options here. We could do some math just to figure out, okay, how far do we really need it? Or we could instead add just like something on top of the player for like us to have a position. So we're just going to do something very simple. We're going to do add child node. Then we're going to add a node 2D. And we're just going to move this just a little bit to the side. So I believe 5, yeah. So we're just going to move this outside the collision box towards like where the rifle is. And because it's already a child of the player, that means it'll rotate around with the player. And you can try and get that a little closer to the rifle. So like I'm going to do that. I believe I can do like 2, no, about 4, 2, just to get it a little closer to that. And now instead, when we go give it the position, instead of just giving the straight position of the player, we're going to do node 2D dot, actually not that one, we're going to do global position. That way it gets the global position of the node instead of just spawning based on the local position of it. So do you see how that works, Christian?
Yeah, I get it.
I'm going to check real quick to make sure that works. So I believe that should. I did it a different way in my other one, but yeah. So now with that, you should be able to shoot bullets. They again just kind of just cloud the walls and don't really do anything. But you know, they're almost like, I guess, banana peels or something you're shooting out. So we're just going to go ahead and get off that. Do you have that working?
I'm not sure if it's working the way it's supposed to right now. I'll be honest.
Let me take a look.
Yeah. This, they don't open it there.
Oh. Let's go to your script. Clear. So, oh, you need to give it the position as well. I mean, not the position, the rotation. You see that line?
Yeah, I don't know how I can mess up.
Yeah, that should fix it. And we can also check to make sure your bullet has some colliders, because I know it's kind of just going through the walls.
Yeah, I'm like. That's where it was.
All right. So now if our bullet's actually able to spawn so we can even see that they work, we can go ahead and start messing around with those again, because now we need to start making it so our bullets can, well, so they can actually hit players and the like. So for that, I'm gonna go out of here. So before we had a collision shape just to give it, you know, something so we can hit stuff. We're gonna go ahead and remove that for now, because we're gonna replace that with an area. So that way, instead of the bullets hitting something and just colliding like normal, we're gonna make it so it just detects on whatever it's hitting. So you can go ahead and delete that real quick. Yeah, I know Godot won't really like it that you have no collider for a character, but we're just going to ignore that. We're going to make an area. Then for this, we're going to give that, I believe, a collider. Yeah. And then we're going to give that just a little circle. And that seems like it's okay. So yeah, bullet won't like that, but we're just going to ignore that. So you should just have that little area and a collision shape underneath it. That way should ensure that whatever goes inside that area, you can start detecting. In order to get that, we're going to go to our area. So we click on that, go to the inspector side, switch to node, and then we have a few options. We can do like body entered, body exit, etc. And we're just going to go ahead and do body entered, and we're going to send that over here. So now every time something enters that area, it's going to go and execute this little script here. So we can go ahead and make a little bit so the bullet, if it impacts something in the opposite team, is going to do damage to it. So we're going to do if. Oh.
Hey, I'm sorry, I forgot my charger in there.
That's no problem. Actually, there's 2 chargers over there.
Yeah.
I was just seeing if you missed it.
Yeah. Usually you have to roll it. Yep. All right. So with that, I'm going to start doing that little if statement. So if team equal player or team equal put allies. That'll be so if you add allies to this, you can go ahead and detect them just right off the bat from this. And then we're going to see if body dot is in group enemies. So that'll detect if it's in like the enemy team. And then we're going to do body dot, we're going to do take damage, and we're going to send over that damage variable we have. So what that will do is it'll detect if the players, if the bullet's in like either the player team or the allies team, and then if it is, it's going to be like, okay, is the body that's impacting in the enemy team, which it's going to return the damage, and then if it is impacting an enemy, it's going to be giving that damage to the enemy via a function we're going to give it. And then to go ahead and take care of it so we don't have to come back to this thing, we're going to handle it for the enemy as well. So if team equal enemies, then if body dot is in group allies, or body dot is in group player, then body dot take damage, and that'll make it so if it's an enemy bullet that's impacting either an allied thing or like the player, then they'll also take damage just like how the enemy would. And then to make sure the bullet actually despawns if it hits anything, we're just going to add Q free, and that's just a simple way to delete whatever node you're on that has the script. Do you see all that? Mm-hmm. Oh, Duncan, that agreement's going to try and sign away your soul, right?
No. It's just like, what's your email outside of school?
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing the Jesus shirt. He's just to keep him on fire.
I see.
He actually worships the devil now.
Yeah.
But this will finish up the actual script for the bullet, so we shouldn't really need to touch that at all anymore. So I'll also go ahead and just save that so I don't have to worry. You about have it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. From here, I think we'll go ahead and start making the enemy then, so we can actually have something to shoot at.
We're good.
All right. So with that done, we need something to actually shoot at. So we're going to start by adding our enemy. So similar to before, we're going to make a character. And let's go in here. Let's add a few things. So we're going to add 2 sprites like before. Sprite. And then we're going to grab some textures. So we should have both like the base of the enemy and also the arms. There we go. All right. And if we just want the enemy to be in here, we're just going to give it a little collider real quick. Give that a shape. You know, let's do like a little capsule to try and capture it a little better. There. All right. And we're not going to mess with any script for the enemy just yet. It's because we just want to be able to shoot it and make sure our bullets work. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in a group. So we're going to go to node, and then we have either signals or groups. So we're going to go to groups. We're going to click the plus sign, and we got to make a new group. So I believe before we had enemies. So we're going to do this. And now if this gets detected, it'll be in the enemies group. You can go ahead and save this. So enemy.
Yeah, they've got some just like on.
Oh, that's good. So that's like a very simple way to implement this sort of stuff. And then, so to make sure we also have that same sort of thing going for the player, we're going to go to groups over here, do a plus, And we're just going to do player. So whenever we want to add that same sort of collisions for the player, we already know how to handle it. And actually, now that I realize it, we do need to add a quick script to the enemy, just because we have that take damage function for it. And it'd be rather unfortunate if it tries to take damage and then crashes the whole game because there's no function. So we're going to make a quick enemy script. I'm just going to rename this enemy, make script, enemy script, create.
Did you make a group global or?
I didn't make it global. I just left it how it was. I haven't seen as much of a reason to really mess with that sort of thing, that like global or not global. It seems to work just fine no matter what I tick.
Yeah, I just know computer science, I don't like globals.
All right, and we're just gonna give that just pass for now, since we just want to make sure this even can hit the enemy. So I'm gonna go here. Let's just save this. Then we're gonna copy our enemy, go to our sample map, copy and paste them, and then let's just move them around. So let's put the enemy, say, right here. All right, so let's open this up. And what should happen is we can load in, we can shoot, it impacts on walls. And oh, what did it not like? Oh yeah, right, it did not have an argument. That was an issue. Let's just give it an argument. Damage taken. There. All right, now when we do that, it should not give us the error. Yeah. So now we have the impacts of the bullets on the enemies. So there we go. Impacts on walls. So our bullets pretty much work fine. Now it's mostly a matter of making it so the bullets, like their code actually works in the enemies and the player themselves. So we're gonna go over here back towards the enemy. And let's make it so damage actually works. I'm going to take a look. I had some code for this just to help. So we had damage taken. And we're going to first set up just real quick the health of the enemy. So let's set this to like, I don't know, 3. And then that should be fine for this. We have to get set up for right now. Actually, we'll give it also damage so it knows that already. Give that 1. Now we'll go ahead and do health minus equal damage taken. And then if health is less than or equal to 0, then let's see. We're just going to make it Q free. If you want to make it so there's like some sort of animation or something, what you'd probably want to do is before Q free, you would make it wait like a little bit of a second, so kind of like do an animation or make it like something else spawn in its place. But this should work just fine. Now if we go back to that sample map, what should happen is if we shoot our enemy a few times, they delete. So now we got very basic stuff for the enemies working right there. Do you need a moment to catch up?
Yeah, just even one moment.
Yeah.
Or else some stuff got messed up in my game too.
So let's see. So we can get some very basic AI going for the enemy. It'll probably just be like something simple where it just tries to get to the player as much as it can, then it just stops.
Yeah.
Since I have like some more enemy code I could do, but honestly that's a bit much. Like I don't think we need to be spending the time giving it like random movements and stuff all of a sudden.
That's why I don't like that.
All right. I guess we don't need to worry about that weird add gravity thing. There's no gravity. All right. All right. Would you be good if I start typing a bit more?
Yeah, -4.
All right. So to start off with, for some AI, we're gonna first make it so it can actually handle like what hostiles it's already found. So we're gonna do like hostiles found. That's gonna be an empty array to start with. And we'll give it some speed real quick. So const speed equal 100.0. And we'll give it a fire rate like we did for the player. Equals 0.2. Then we already gave it damage, so we're just going to give it fire. It's just ready with a capital. Yep. Ready equal 1. And then we won't worry about that movement thing. We'll give it randomness it can do, just at least for choosing enemies to go after. RNG equal random number generator dot new. And we'll make it so it can also remember where its target is. Target equal, let's give it its own position for now. And just so it can also spawn in bullets, we'll do the same thing we did for the player. So on ready var bullet object, then colon equal preload bullet. So that's all just the setup, so we can start giving it some basic stuff. Because hostiles found, that's just how it's going to be tracking like all the enemies in its area. So if it needs to switch between them, that's how it'll do it. Then speed, of course, that's just for it moving around. Fire and fire ready, similar to the player. Random generator, that's just it giving it something random generator to use. And then target is just for now, like wherever it's trying to go. So right now, I'll just be targeting its own position. So first, like the player, we're going to go ahead and give it some quick friction, just so it doesn't slide all over the place. 0.8. Then if absolute velocity dot x is absolute velocity dot y is less than 15. Let's just put that all in here. And then velocity equal vector2, 0, 0. And there we go. So that's just some basic little friction code just to make sure it doesn't slide all over like I mentioned. All right. And now we can start handling some basic AI. Do you have all the stuff up there?
Yeah, I'm just getting stuff into this process right now.
Okay. So I'll move down there. So first, it's going to be having to actually detect enemies. So in order for it to detect enemies, we're going to have to give it, I'll switch over to the enemy thing so we can see that. We're going to have to give it a way to, like an area for it to see things. So what I'm going to do is go to the enemy, I'm going to do child node, area, and then going to give that collider. All right. I'm just going to edit that in here just so I don't have to move from the code. And let's make that, I don't know, 50. That will hopefully be enough. And we're going to call this our detect area. So like we did with the last area, we're going to make sure we go to signals, and we're going to send that into here. So that way, every time like something enters that area, it'll be able to detect what it is. And now it's going to do if body dot is in group, and then it's going to check for either if it's player or body dot is group allies. So that way, if it's an either of the enemy teams that the enemy does not like, it's going to be able to check to see if it's one of those. And let me check, because it also needs to be able to make sure it's not already in the list of things it has. So I believe. And then hostiles. Wait, no, hostile. Right. Oh no, hostiles found dot append body. So that makes sure if it's in there, it'll be able to add it to the list of hostiles that's found, so it knows it's in the area. And then we're also going to go ahead and do body.exited. So we can just copy and paste that code. But instead, we're going to do, I believe, is it remove? Okay, this one's a little more complicated as far as I'm aware. If hostiles, how many hostiles found, dot find body net equal -1. So because we're trying to remove it from the list, like whenever it exits, we have to first make sure it's even in the list. So using that find command, it'll basically just try and search that list for the body. If that body is not in it, it always just returns -1. And then in such a case, we can do hostiles found dot remove at. And we're going to do hostiles found dot find body 0. So this whole thing, basically, it's finding the position of body in that list. Oh, my bad. I see that in that one too. So it finds that body in the list. It reports an indice, and then that hostiles.found thing will remove it at that point. So that way we'll have a consistent record of like all the hostiles in the area for the enemy to go after. All right, you got that?
Yeah, I got all that.
All right. So with that, we can start using that little variable. So if hostiles found dot length is greater than 0, so that means we already know there's some enemies around it. Then we're gonna go ahead and I guess we could try and make it so it targets the first. I mean the closest of them. So for actually, I have a way of doing that already. Yeah. You know, I guess we'll just go after the first one on the list. So if we can even just do this simpler. So target equal hostiles found. And then we're just going to reference whatever's the first thing in that list. And dot position. It should go ahead and work for that, I believe. Let me make sure I don't have to do anything weird for that. So it should just straight find the person. Yeah, I believe that should work. Okay. So that goes ahead and sets the target. And then with having a target, so if target, right, so we need to make sure it's not going to be the enemy's position. Net equal position dot x. That y. So that's just making sure it's already like it's targeting an enemy and not just itself. So in that case, I'm going to go ahead and be checking for distances here. So we're going to take like a square root and we're going to do, so I realize there's actually an easier way to do this, my bad. Nope, I did not mean to do it that way. Target.x minus position.x. And we're going to do that with a power command. Right, nope. Pow, yeah, it's pow. 2 plus, grab that there. Right. So if that is greater than, so in this case, we're trying to think of how far we want to be like from the player for it to try and engage. So let's say about like 15 or 20 pixels or so. So 20, but because we did that, we took away that square root on that left side, we're going to square this. So that's going to be instead 400. That should handle that. So it's greater than like really 20 pixels away. It's going to be trying to get closer. So we're going to have to mess with that a little. Let me reference what I have over here to try and help. Actually, this is a little easier to look at. All right. So we're going to look at target. So that makes it just automatically rotate towards whatever the target is. Actually, really, I guess in that case, I should already be looking towards the target anyway. So we're just going to put that there. Velocity equal speed. I believe this should work. Actually, oh yeah, right. We need to do the whole math part real quick. So vector 2 cosine of rotation, sine of rotation. All right. So what this little snippet should do is it should make it so if that position of the target is not its own position, so that means it's looking at like an enemy and not just itself, it's going to look towards whatever its target is, and then it's going to calculate like its position relative to it to see if it's like a certain distance away, and then if it needs to get closer, it's going to go ahead and change its velocity to try and get closer. So we can go ahead and see if this works. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go to the, oh, do you have that code down? Oh, let me see. Is there an error?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's the issue. Shouldn't be having it. Well, I guess that was the issue.
Well, that worked out. All right. So I'm going to go back to the sample map, and we have our enemy over here. Oh, that detection area is actually a lot smaller than I thought. I'm going to change that real quick. So if you set like the detection area to like 50 like I did, I'm also just going to do 10 times that. There we go. That's a good enough detection area. Yeah, it'll find the player. Oh, what are you trying to mess with?
Oh, the size of it, mine's happening.
Yeah, I said like the 50 at first, it was like 500 or something. Click on shape things, so you see that circle. There you go.
Oh, yeah, I went full pixel.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and check this. So I believe this should work. This is different from the code I originally had, but I figured to do like a shorter thing. Oh, what did it not like? It didn't rate me trying to get length. Is that a different thing in this? I thought it was that. Might just be I used the wrong function. I think there's just a different function for that in this. Oh yeah, I just used the wrong function. That's like for MATLAB. In Godot, it's actually Ling. There we go. Now let's try. That should actually work, right? Yeah, there we go. Now the enemy's trying to chase me. So I need to shoot it away. But of course, it was trying to get way too close there. So I'm going to go back. I had that 400. So let's think. If 20 was way too much and 50 was still kind of a bit weird, let's do like 100, but then we're going to do that times another 100. So let's just add 2 zeros. And let's see how that works. So a lot of this will just be adjusting it. And there we go. So now the enemy will actually try and pursue us, but it'll stay a certain distance away from us. So you can't really escape it. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to do else. It's like whenever it's in range, that's going to be when it's going to be trying to shoot. So let me make sure I get this code right. If fire ready equal 1, then I'm actually going to go to my player real quick since that's pretty much the same code we're going to use. I'm just going to grab this whole thing here, take that, go to our enemy, plop that in there, do a little bit of adjusting to the indent. And instead of player, we're just going to tell it it's enemies. And all we need to do is go similarly grab the prep fire thing. So you can literally just grab the exact same thing from the player, put that in our enemy. There we are. And now what should happen, at least assuming all that works right, is when the enemy gets close. Oh, what did it not like there? Oh, right, yeah, because it has no node 2. We're going to do just like what we did for the player. We're going to give it that little node 2. Let's give it that. Node 2. I'm just going to put that like there. I'm going to replay that. And let's see if that works. All right. And now the only issue is it just needs to do take damage on the player. So we can just go to our enemy. And hey, we already have that thing done. We just need to take that, give it to our player. And because we aren't going to necessarily kill the player right now, we're just going to do game over so we know what's happening. And we just go ahead and restart that real quick. And now the enemy will actually start shooting at us back. And when we lose enough health, it tells us game over. So that's just a very basic working enemy. That one's like just very simple. It only just pursues you to get into a certain range. So you probably want to add in your own stuff. Like what I've done in the past is I make it like wander about a little to try and find people. Maybe you can even make it so it like works based on nodes. So there's certain nodes on the map telling it can go to such and such place. Yeah. Do you need to say any more of the code?
I think I got a little lost. I think there's just some issues messed up in mine.
Well, let's see what yours does.
Well, right now it crashes. Assuming that's not an intended feature. Probably not.
So let's see.
It doesn't like.
So it says finally. Oh, you can do it and then all that stuff after. Yeah. There we go. Let's see that part. Let's see. Oh, your target thing. Set that to position that. I think you might have a tag or something or put something random.
Set position.
Yeah, just position.
Yeah, that must be
Yeah, let's see. First view.
My bolts are kind of messed up.
Maybe actually. That's also your notes you do. They must be too close to the player. They're automatically hitting the player.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking.
So let's go back to your player. And let's go. Yeah, I see if I get to right on the edge of your box right there. So I'll just move them out of the way. You can also just make your players and flatter a bit smaller as well.
Yeah.
There you go. How does it get here? So it should be taking damage. What's your taking damage function look like? Okay, that should be working fine. Let's check your bullet over to make sure also. That looks fine. Maybe it's your enemy group. Go to your enemy. Go to your node. Go to groups. Right back in that one. Alright. Now we try it. It might have just been that was picked off. Yeah. Yeah. And now it's mostly saying your enemy to shoot.
Yeah.
I'm going to check on the live stream real quick. Let's see. No messages from Discord as far as I can tell. Is there anything on the live stream? Nothing I see there. All right. So I think that'll just mostly be it for this one. I can just add a quick little health pop-up. So we'll just do this real quick. Let's go here. We're going to make a sprite. Right, because I think that should work for this. Let me double check. I have my notes. No, that's not the notes. Yeah, okay. It's just a little sprite. And then we're going to give it also a little label so we know what we're talking about. So sprite, I'm going to go to textures, load. Let's do health. And we're just also going to make sure it says that on there. Let's see, can I get that to... There we go. That's just so the player can see it whenever they're looking for it. And then instead of having the player look for it, we're just going to give it a little area. Give it a collider. Let's go to here. So I guess probably the best thing to probably do this in real practice would just be to make it so your health pop up. Instead of detecting it from the health pop up, you make it so your player just detect anything in that group. But we're going to just do this real quick. So health pickup. There we go. And we don't even need the ready function. And we don't need the add particles for this one. We're going to do if body dot is in group player, then body dot health equal, we're just going to set that to like 10 because I can't remember what we set the health originally to. And then we're going to do Q free. Right. Oh, I forgot. We're not even doing physics function. We're just doing area. So my bad. So instead of doing that how we just did it, we're just going to make it so it does the body enter thing, connect that up to the sprite, take that little bit of code we just did, paste that in there. Health pickup. All right. And we'll just name that real quick. Pickup. There we go. Copy that, go to our sample map, go to node 2, and we can just place that wherever, or you could do it using the tile map, but I'm just showing this just real quick for an example. So let's go ahead and load this in. So we take a little bit of damage, and we can go, oh, what did I not like there? Let me see, that should have been fine. Did I just call it something else here? Yeah, okay, I forgot I capitalized it there. My bad. There. Let's try that one more time. There we go. And that'll restore our health. So that's just the very basics of all those. You probably want to add stuff like a UI and the like. But this is just basically so you can get like shooting going, you can get basic enemies going, and some health pickups. So that'll just be it for this little tutorial. I'm going to go check on the live stream. Let's see. Is there anyone else in here I could really see? There's one person still watching. Gotcha. So do you need me to help explain anything else? So I can go ahead and stop sharing real quick just so it stops doing that weird thing. All right. Well, in that case, I'll go ahead and just stop the live stream. So that's pretty much it for that tutorial. And it should just be the basics to get going if you ever want to use the sort template. I also have this available online, and I'll actually probably mention that a bit later in an announcement. But yeah. So I'll go to end this.